Alright, let's clap.
But the AKA is always showing me that.
Clap, sing, 3, 2, 1.
Clap.
Everybody.
What's going on?
We in the building. We have a celebrity in the house.
Yes, we do. Her apples and her Skippy on deck.
I want y'all to know that. I want y'all to know, y'all, for real, we make accommodations for people on our show. Like, we'll get you the best apples. We'll get you the hardest chair we can find in the apartment. But above all else, we welcome women into our diverse world and let it be known that the record show, this is now the second female to step into the man cave.
And the second AKA to step into the man cave.
We now have...
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
My 5-year birthday for my line is coming up.
Snap.
I'm so hyped.
Happy birthday. We are on the identity...
Thank you.
We're on the identity...
Spring 13, Alpha Row.
We're on the identity booth. Hey guys, how you doing? As always, your host Heero, co-host Eric, and we have a special guest, a celebrity in the house. I want to give it up for one of my longtime friends. We went to school together on the yard. She is always...
Like 5 minutes.
Are you done? Are you finished?
Probably not, Mbaka.
Yeah. Well, Wakanda forever right now. Let's go.
It is Challenge Day.
I'm sorry, Wakanda's first hero.
Yeah.
Challenge Day in the booth. Then we have the lovely Ayla with us. Thank you so much. She's on the show today because she's going to be plugging her podcast and blog, which is...
Proud Ayla! Woo!
I have produced one of her videos. It should be out by now. If you guys are watching this, go ahead. I'll put the link and all the great stuff in the bottom. But all that good stuff's out. I don't have my paper and pen. Eric, riff for me. What you doing today?
Man, so we're talking about, first topic definitely got to be Russia simulating these bombings in America.
We have an issue. On last week, Friday, today is 3/7/2018, but we had a situation last week, Friday, where Russia simulated a 3D representation of multiple airstrikes on the eastern seaborne coast, and it was pretty devastating, guys. I mean, it was pretty lifelike and realistic. Eric, what's your OP on this?
You know what? I can understand it. I mean, you gotta go. This goes back. This is deep seated. This goes back to the Obama presidency.
That's recent. Let's take it back to when we took away their sanctions and everything.
That's George W. I mean, all this has to do with oil. All this has to do with their.
And what's the big deal with oil?
Well, the U.S. dollar is backed by petrol. That's why they have these deals with the Saudis, and that's why Russia went around the petrodollar and that made this deal with Syria. That's why them and Syria are allies, and so Syria was giving them cheap oil. But everybody in the world who sells oil has to sell it in dollars. That's why these BRICS nations are in the process of getting veto power in the International Monetary Fund so they can have control. And this is all it's about. So Russia is on a tipping point. They've been getting their economy crushed by the last 3 presidents because they're not getting enough oil to keep their economy afloat. And so it's at the point now it's either...
Do you feel like they're having an issue running an economy? I mean, they have the ability and technology and the finesse to deceive us at our best.
I mean, isn't that what it's all about?
It's
like the deception is like, it's basically they can do whatever they want. I mean, and at the liberty of other people feeling like they have no idea of what's going on or what's at risk. Like, I feel like that's what it's been all about, and that's why, I may be reaching. They say women reach, but anyway.
No, reach for the sky. Go ahead. Get your hand up there. Touch the sun. Go ahead.
Like, the whole situation with Trump and Putin, like, that's why it's so questionable, right? Because, like, why do you have a relationship with this guy that would even put America in any harm, like, knowingly, like, intentionally, purposefully, like, out of his way to do it? So it's just like, it makes everything questionable. So it like makes.
And that is a very good point, because what example do we have of a country showing retaliation against us? Let's use North Korea. He famously put out a press notice, said that the nuclear arms button is on his desk, and what did Baby Fingers do? Tweeted about how his button is bigger and better. Mm-hmm. So we know that the president isn't afraid to retaliate. But in this instance, where we saw a 3D rendition of a country that we know has the military capabilities and has stealth destroyers out on the water, mm-hmm. Not a peep, not a word. Like, Baby Fingers knows this happens, so why didn't you say anything?
For this, all this thing, these presidents just kicked the can down the road. You got to think about, remember that blurb that came out right before the 2012 election when Obama met with Putin? Mm-hmm. And he said, hey, man, I'm going to have way more flexibility once I get reelected.
Yeah, I remember that.
So they're all in bed together.
It's too comfortable of a situation, but the Pentagon did on Monday, over the weekend, respond forcibly, putting 18 missile-ready cruisers in the Black Sea, which is right off the coast of Russia.
Once we got all those military bases in Japan, it would be a stupid move for him to...
So that's why a lot of people are calling it a one-off at best, just Putin having fun. But we don't find that remotely entertaining at all, in the sense that you're dealing with people's lives, man.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, when you think about it, you know, when it gets to, like, missiles and, like, war equipment, then people want to say, like, it's people's lives. But essentially, every movement that government makes, whether it be here or in Russia, like, or anywhere, like, you're dealing with people's lives.
Yeah.
But when you're in this safe zone, and I'll refer to the safe zone as, like, higher up politicians, and, like, in your president, where you might not have the salary, you know, that maybe others have, but you're in the room with the people that have the salary that you want, or the money that you want. And so it's like, those are the people that I feel like they're in the safe zone. Like, they feel like it doesn't matter, like, kind of like when they give you a flu shot and they created it, but now it's like infecting people that they never thought it would get to.
Yeah.
Like, it's just that type of thing, like, oh, I created this, but I didn't think I could get the flu. Like, are you human? Are you here on Earth? Like,
well, and I mean, just in closing thoughts, as far as it's concerned, I'm not a fan of violence or show of power. This is what happens when this is the instance of where you see someone driving a lifted truck with the ball sacks hanging from behind of it, yes. Showing off for no reason, revving their engine, wasting their gas, destroying the community. Hey man, just let me and my little Nissan Maximum by, bro. It's not that serious. Like, we're all going to the same place, and I'm okay with a verbal response. Yeah. But this show of force is agitation at best.
Yeah, what did the women folks say? They say somebody's overcompensating.
Mm-hmm. Well, we ain't gonna have to compensate no more, because NCAA, with that beautiful segue, thanks for that dime pass, bro. Yeah. You see how he did that seamlessly? That's 7 episodes plus of working together.
Yeah.
NCAA got beef with the players. Players got beef with the NCAA, and they're even thinking about mass protesting March Madness.
I'm with
it.
What? I'm with it. So do you guys follow the Gonzalez twins on Instagram?
I don't.
Okay, so these girls, between the two of them, have like 4 million followers on Instagram between the two of them.
That's good.
I follow them. Great. But I watched a documentary that Vice did on them traveling around Las Vegas. They said they didn't want to go to the WNBA because they weren't going to get paid nothing but $20,000, $30,000 a year. It's like, we can do more traveling, making mixtapes and booking shows and doing appearances than we can in the WNBA. And they said, number 2, reason we left the NCAA is because they signed a contract and they own all the rights to their name and their likeness, and they make millions of dollars off these kids, mm-hmm. and these kids don't get a freaking dime.
Yeah, and that's part of my beef with the NCAA right now. Our lovely friend, the Memphis head coach, just put out a statement the other day. I believe he's the coach from Texas Tech, so that's why I know him, Tubby Smarts. I'm not sure, but. Yeah, this is the basketball coach, but basically in his statement he was talking about how these young kids are out of line and misled, and when it gets hard, they quit. Hey, bro, check it out. Just because you look, I'm about to get mad because
you really
He had to pause it real quick.
Eric, type this in for me because I'm about to go in. Bro, all right, let me break something down for you. For all y'all that don't know me, I was a professional athlete and I also played in college.
When?
Tubby Smith.
It's Tubby Smith.
What the hell? Well, first of all, what the hell kind of name is Tubby?
The Tubby.
Hey, the southern name, G.
Hey, I'm not gonna knock
Don't
him.
even
I'm
play.
not gonna knock him on his personality, his style, or anything like that. I'm just gonna knock him on his closed mind, introspective way of thinking about today's generation.
Wow.
He's the typical old school, like motherfucker that just don't want to see you grow. You can't. Okay,
It's because it's hurting his pockets.
It is, and I hear that and I defend it. But you can't call yourself a coach because no matter what you're teaching anybody, it is your responsibility as a coach to make sure that at all times your players have the best opportunity presented to them, even if it doesn't involve you.
Yeah.
And that is my beef with him.
Yeah.
My beef is you can't be someone who is looking at the past to represent the present. Don't you see how many errors have come from it?
Yeah.
These poor souls are out here working 90 games a year on the biggest TV stations all across the world.
Wow.
And they don't even get, and people hit them with you get scholarship, you get free funding. Why isn't school free in the first place?
No, for real. Like, no, for real.
That can't be compensation. Formal education cannot be a sense of compensation. And it irritates me to see someone who has so much power in the world of the NCAA to make such a braggadocious statement about how his father gave him two options. Go to war or move out. You've got to be kidding me. Because as you stand here today, Tubby.
And what year was that? Like
in the 60s.
Yeah, like that's not even realistic, G. Like
you sit at home right now. I've looked you up, bro. You are sitting in $1 million house right now. You're not telling your kids to pack up and go home. They have a place to go no matter what.
Exactly.
Right.
These kids come from nothing. You go and recruit them from the slums where you first put them by impoverishing their whole entire community, leaving them to a systematic shutdown that doesn't help with their regrowth. You then pull them, their only source of revenue, out of that community, make them work for you, and if they make it, which is 1 in a million,
literally,
you don't send them back. So this community has lost somebody forever. But hey, what do I know, right? Okay, I'm done.
So, like, the whole issue, man, it's funny because I was watching the clip from LeBron. LeBron made one of the most poignant statements I've heard him make, and I'm not a big fan of LeBron talking about social, economic, or political issues, but he said the NBA has to do a better job of working on the farm team. We need a better farm system. The G League, these kids, they'll make some money. They're not going to make big money, but they'll make some money.
Yeah.
But, you look at baseball. When I lived in Virginia, we lived in Virginia Beach, Norfolk area, and we had the Tides. The Tides were the Orioles farm team, and it was a great system. The games were always sold out. And you look at the minor league and how many of those kids from the minors get called up to the pros on a regular basis. Like, this happens like every day, every week, because they have a good farm system, but not for the NBA. And the NBA is by far the nation's most popular sport. Mm. But all they have is the NCAA, where these kids literally don't have a dime. And most of them aren't even...
Okay, and I'm okay with this idea of, like, the certain sense of integrity. But you lose it all for me when you're getting these kids, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you I didn't get money. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I didn't get money. Like, I knew what it was. And then I for sure knew what it was when the Eagles came and pulled me out of my fucking history class.
Yeah.
Hey, mom's needs a new car. What's good? Like, there has to be structure. And I don't feel like that's asking for too much.
No. What they really need is to allow these kids to retain their rights to their likeness. But what's more important is we got to start educating these young kids on before you select the college, you form a company and then you sign a deal with the NCAA as a company.
Yeah.
Because then they can't. You're not signing over your likeness. You're signing over partial rights for them to use your likeness.
It's a royalty system, and
Exactly.
and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, regardless of the fact that in the 9th District Court they did rule in the players' favor. So I got a check out of nowhere one day from the NCAA, and anytime someone buys an NCAA game that my name happens to show up in, I'll get a percentage of that. Rightfully so.
Yeah.
But why did it take? How long since NCAA? Over 30 years? No,
NCAA been around for a long time.
I'm gonna give 50s.
60s.
So why did it take so long for them? And it's not even like most times I'll be quick to throw the race card out there, but these are white, black, male, female, Hispanic. These are the people, like generations of people who have been neglected and seen this same rotation. Why hasn't no one stepped up and tried to change this? And it's not until now that, of course, March Madness. The NFL took every sports arena right now is seeing what happened in the NFL. Like, hey, look, if you make your players mad, it will affect your ratings. It will affect your money. Like the new official pizza, Papa John's is out.
Yeah. Pizza
Hut is in. Like, they said, hey, bro.
Domino's.
That's what I thought they would. Why?
Pizza Hut.
They went to Pizza Hut?
They went to Pizza Hut. Domino's dropped the ball on that one.
Domino's fumbled.
I would have been all over that like white on rice, but
have they not like tried Pizza Hut cheesy bread against Domino's?
I don't
they're
like
sweet.
Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut's so nasty.
I just think cardboard
Their
was
bread,
seasoned.
they're not like something's not going right.
After they redid the recipe at Domino's, I was like, oh, this is beyond edible now.
Yeah,
they're really trying over there. Thin crust is great. Anyone trying to,
we're not
lower the
sponsored by
calories?
them.
We're not. We're not.
Hey, but if y'all wanna,
I wouldn't be mad if he bought me a pizza either.
If Domino's, if y'all want to send us some money or follow us or something, we'll take it.
Hey, Identity Booth. The Identity Booth. Hit us up. But I'm closing this one out with just horrible. And anyone who's over there representing them, KJ, I'm calling you out. I saw you on Facebook reposting his stamp tweet. You're a coach. I get it. Don't be like him. Be better. We talking about, all right, it's time to be honest with each other. I believe we've built a rapport up until this point where we can be honest with you.
Well, that was a quick rapport.
Well, who all voted this past Friday?
Friday?
I missed my registration.
Or yesterday?
Yesterday. Yeah.
That's fair. Woo! I got my sticker in the car. I had to get to it. My voting experience was terrible.
Please go on.
So, obviously we live in a Republican state.
Kinda.
It's turning purple.
It's purple.
It's purple right now.
Well, where I vote in my precinct is red. So I went in there and we're just literally waiting. Like, we don't know why we're waiting. I'm with one of my classmates that I grew up with. She works at where I was voting, so she's like, she's gonna vote at the same time as me, whatever. We're literally just waiting. And so, after 10 minutes, the lady was like, Democrat or Republican. But, the way she did it is, she was in a conversation with someone. So, she was like, Democrat, Republican. I was like...
First of all, it's none of your business.
No, they have to ask. Because
they split you up.
They split because precincts that are divided, they have to have both registering voters in that same building.
So, what if I'm neither? What if I'm moderate?
Well, it's primary, so you wouldn't be able to vote.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well... Primaries, the primaries still applied for the
Green
Party, Libertarian.
Yeah, you can write them in for sure, but
that's all you can do.
That's
you can write them in. Those 9 times out of 10, those candidates didn't make it to the ballot.
And on page 12 in agriculture, there was one libertarian. That was it. There was only one out of the whole entire 22 questionnaire sheet, and I checked for both sides because I requested to see the Republican and Democratic ballot sheet, and I want to make my decision in private.
I would have told them, give me the red pill.
Yeah, you have both. Pill. You have the option, and I feel like that's coming. I had a judge. We had a judge at our precinct, so it was really nice to have him there because when I requested to see the Republican ballot after claiming Democrat, the Democratic Party said, "Wait, why?" To which I responded, "I just want to see what their legislative laws are or what they're concentrating on," and she actually made a plea against me, which was kind of weird. And she was like, I don't think we can do that. And I said, well, do you have a judge here? And there was one. So he said, no, he has the right to sample both.
I don't understand. People always are trying to make a big hoot out of anything.
That
to me, if you want to see that.
I feel like it was more of a protective thing because when I walked in through the door, they said, oh, he's a Democrat. that was just a blatant assumption. That was them profiling.
That was bias, right?
Exactly, because if I would have walked in right behind you, they would have said
they would have been really shocked. And then we shook hands and walked the fuck out together.
Yeah, walked in together. He took the blue pill, I took the red pill, and then we walked back out together.
Because it's not a secret here. I'm well versed in my liberal condescending tone, at least. A liberal condescending tone is out there, but I really vote moderately when it comes to basic things. While Eric is the same way. He aims right.
I think it's anyone. Like, when you're being asked to vote on something, you're going to vote based upon what it is. Like, you cannot just assume someone's going to say yes or no to something. Like, that's where you mess up at.
So,
and the thing is, it's just like, well, the thing that I just, like, it caught me up on when that happened anyway, is that I was like, when you're a kid and they're like teaching you about like voting and like the different parties, they're always like discretion, like, oh, like, and it was discretion then just for etiquette, like just to keep down on like, you know, people really getting into it. Because people really do get hot over politics, but at the same time, it's like, if at the voting place you go to, like, there's no discretion whatsoever. Like, it's just very blatant and clear. Like, I feel like that enough, like, creates tension. And because these are people these are your neighbors. You're voting when you vote in your precinct. Like, these are your neighbors. Like, so if you're not going early, because early voting, and I feel like that may be a reason why people early vote. Yeah. Because early voting, it's not like that. Like, you go in, you vote. You don't have to, like, break it up like that. But actual voting day, like Democrat or Republican, like
they will put you on blast, and I'm okay with that to an extent, because it shows a generational gap of conscious thinking. It was.
I don't even think you have to put it in generational.
That's the way it was divided when I went up there, because it was very clear. People on medical assistance, there was 4 people there who needed assistance to vote when I was there, which was remarkable for me to see, because not only did they need assistance, they're voting Republican. Yeah. And those are people who want to take away those types of assistance.
And that's the crazy part, is like all the veterans, all the people, like, I know that we saw someone of Hispanic descent, they were voting Republican, and like my friend, that really raised her eyebrow, and I was like, look where she living at. Like, there's a lot of influences that really play on how people vote and how they look at, you know, just politics in general. And you cannot negate that. And that's the thing, is like, you got to realize who people are, when they grew up, where they grew up, and the things that really play on their mind. Like, and if they're even open to understanding anything further. That's why in this world, when people are going that, like, you know, are bigots, are prejudiced, are biased, whatever it may be, like, there still is going to be someone else here because they had an influence or impact on someone else. And those things, like, you know, subconsciously sometimes even manifest in those people's lives.
Yeah. So then let's talk a little bit about some of the candidates then. Running against Ted Cruz. And just so y'all know, Ted Cruz is from Canada. His real name's Edward. And he's running Texas. He is a Republican incumbent right now. He holds his chair. But after this horrific last year he had following the Trump campaign, a lot of people have called for him to be beheaded. And
we should take him out to the square and hang him publicly.
I'm a little bit against that just because of racial sentiment, but I wouldn't care to see people suffer their own fate or their own consequences. But
what about a public flogging?
Okay, I could appreciate that. All right. I could definitely appreciate
39 lashes?
39 lashes. I want it in full. And you better not move.
you flinch, we start.
I don't know how to say this guy's name. Beto?
Yep.
I put him through the ringer. I did significant amount of research with him and to figure out what he stopped taking big PAC money in 2015 when they called him out for it in broad daylight. And since 2015, he hasn't touched a dime of big PAC money. But he did manage to raise $10 million.
It's called grassroots young money. That's what that is.
Yeah.
I looked, and I actually have like I don't have it up right now, but basically, I don't have it up on the screen. But I put it in the description. I put it on my Google Drive so you guys can look at it. But I made a spreadsheet of the whole entire candidate list.
Right.
To see where they get their money from is pretty impressive, one. But two, moreover, for me, like, the problem I'm seeing here is what is it going to do for us? So he's running against Ted Cruz, and there was another big shot winner, the Lupa lady. Lupe. She won big in her district, and we also got a judge. As it stands now, in the 9th district of the courts, in the Supreme Courts, we have no Democratic chair seats. They're all Republican. So if you are sitting there having a dispute or legal binding dispute, you're not going to get a Democratic bias. And most of the things they don't deal with criminal cases. They only deal with civil. So anything civil doesn't come down to like moral ambiguity. It comes down to the letter of the law, which we know is faulty at times. So they have the right to rule against you in even the most bipartisan ways. And it's kind of scary to think about that. But we finally got one person in the running for a seat that's really good, even though it's going to be 8-1 majority of the time. But it's still really good. So we have the two things called the basic Republican, basic Democrat. And a lot of them fall into the crack. And even amongst this, breaking down the numbers for you guys, since I can't show it, 72% of all Republicans use the same phrase, which is, no one's going to take our guns. I'm here to protect the Second Amendment, to which was the 83% backlash from the Democrats. We're just talking about AR-15s and who should have them. We ain't trying to take your pistols. We ain't trying to take your running rifles. We just want to talk about who should really have a... So what I've learned from this situation is basically there's an issue of lack of communication. And Beto is very interested in sitting down and talking to the other side. It's not logical for us to sit here and think we're going to get bipartisan affair without us having a conversation. So I'm really happy to see candidates coming up who are willing to talk. But moreover, get Ted Cruz the fuck out of here.
Yeah, he's part of the old guard, man. Like, what I realized when I went to this advocacy group like a couple months ago, a lot of the senators and congressmen on both sides get money from the same sources. So they're just kicking the can down the road. We got to get rid of these freaking people.
What's the name of this company? Martin, Perlock and Martin. They're a defense company that sells weapons overseas. And this is a great report that just came out on the New York Wall Street Journal last week, talking about how ISIS soldiers have our weapons, USA grade weapons. Of course they do. And we thought for sure they were being stolen.
Yeah. For real.
What? What's funny?
Like, why we
like that? We knew that part.
But okay, but then when you find out that these people who are funding them are the same people funding our politicians, where our defense budget is 3 times more than our education and food. So why are we okay with this?
I mean, when you're really looking at things like, and so hard for me to say this because, I mean...
Oh, really?
It is, because, like, when you grow up, like, you know, you're in the history class and you're like, because they never really tell you about Black history anyway, so you gotta listen to the history they are telling you about. You like, America's overcome so much. Like, we really care about people. Like, you can build a life you want. Like, we gonna get the white picket fence. And then, like, come to
why
this...
I gotta be white?
Right. Blue. I don't know. Pink.
Yeah, I want an African American fence.
I want the red, black, and green.
Yes.
Not for you though. Like, that's how, like, when you get this age, it's like, never mind. Like, you can have a fence, but it can't be that. And it's just the type of thing where it's like, it's not that surprising. Like, it's not that surprising. This has been going on in so many different things. Like, you know, it's like when you hear people say, like, sports are political. Like, if you feel like sports are not political in 2018, like, wake up. Like, it's okay to still watch sports, but it's deeper than what you see. Most things are deeper than what you see.
And a big part of it now is going to come down to just people having, once again, that cross dialogue. And the cross dialogue is going to help people come out of their shell and their comfort zone. And speaking of coming out your comfort zone,
oh boy,
in Florida we had a teacher that was too damn comfortable. Let's pull her name up real quick. Eric, did you read this story?
Yeah, I saw that. It popped up in my feed. Actually, it popped up in my timeline on my YouTube, and I'm like, what in the world is going on?
What happened?
So there's this lovely Florida teacher who's part of the alt-right. and you would not have known that if you didn't get her on your podcast. She is an individual. Once I find her name, I'm gonna say it, but basically, I'm gonna give you guys a rundown. She was running a. This is the teacher right here. I'll post the information in the article.
She like a basic ass teacher too.
Crystal River Middle. She comes from Crystal River Middle School down in Florida, and she runs the Angry White Men website. Basically, she's an alt-right member who's been talking freely on the podcast about her alt-right agenda and how she wants to propagate this. Hey, bro, we ain't sponsored. Relax. Where's that coming from?
I definitely thought it was coming from there.
Doesn't matter. Basically, she came on to the scene. She's been running this website, this show for about 3 years. She's been a teacher for about 8 years. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, Heero, First Amendment, she could talk about whatever she wants. She's not on school grounds when she's doing it. She's not doing all. But that is in itself the problem, because she has recently transitioned her message from just speaking on the alt-right's belief to how to propagate them and internalize it in school. And there's this big notion in schools right now where they're whitewashing history, where the Indians, or the Native Americans, weren't slaughtered, raped, and pillaged. They were humbly moved to the West. It wasn't a slave trade. It was a agricultural movement.
I have to read this. It says in the recent podcast from February 26th. Whoa.
What's
Come
going
on.
It's
Come on.
ads.
It's the Huffington Post.
It's the FBI.
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
watching us. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, they're always watching.
No, they are always watching. But it says in a recent podcast from February 22nd, Lockteff suggested that science has proven that certain races are smarter than others while discussing diversity in schools. She disputed whether a child in Nigeria could learn as quickly as one from Sweden.
And we know that this is...
Urged other white supremacists to become teachers in order to influence children. They don't have to be vocal about their views, but get it in there.
And that is where the problem... the problem basically stemmed from. Which the race baiting she's talking about is something that we as a civilized culture have proven to be not factual. It's just not. The size of your cranium doesn't dictate how smart you are. Want to believe me? I got a big ass head. I'm just as smart as some of y'all out there. It's bare minimum science. But we know that these things don't exist. We know that how you're raised and what you're taught in basic intelligence comes from your exposure.
Yeah.
They've done experiments, and these things go back almost 100 years when they're taking the basic IQ of male and female with no regards to race. And there's a soft bell curve with the majority of people being smack dab in the middle. The average IQ of every human being in this country is about 100. So, I mean, what she's talking about is actually completely racist and against science. Like, it doesn't even make
But
we know this, and that's what it was. As she got more people to call into the radio station, they started to figure out who she was. And they're now doing a complete investigation of the children that she's taught for the last 3 years to see if there's any relative. They've quietly suspended her, but they haven't terminated her.
It's just so unfortunate. Like, there's already so much that... restricts how kids think and learn in school. And, so to be putting in,
my mic's over there, so I'm clicking.
I'm sorry. Gosh. But just to be, putting in your own underlying agenda and negative underlying agenda and, really, you are really influencing and, disgracing these kids' education. They're not getting one because you have these ideas that you want to put out. And it's just if you want to do that, don't do it on your public salary. Do that on your own time.
How wicked is that to do?
Exactly. All of it. It's all just
couldn't have been my kids, because that chick would have been in the dirt. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I'm not having it.
You can't be admitting to second-degree murder or willful manslaughter.
I said it couldn't be my kids. It's not my kids. I don't have children yet. So,
sick.
Allegedly,
sick.
I would allegedly do that.
Thanks.
The whole thing is just sick. It's disgusting. I'm disgusted.
The back of my mind.
I'm gonna write a letter.
The back of my mind. hurts. Like, because I start pain in the back of my neck, and it usually just comes around when people like are innately irritating me. And like every time I think about this situation, it just innately irritates me. And I think to myself, like, you go across the sea, because if you want to know, Florida's Board of Education, their kids are lower half of the 10% curve, and who's there behind? What's the state that's going on all-out protest right now? There are 3 states, basically, with all their teachers out on the street protesting every day for the last 8 days for 5 cents raise. For a 5 cent
First of all, I won't be doing it for 5 cents. That's
not 5 cents, 5%.
5%, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Like
yeah.
I thought it was Martin for a second. I ain't paying the 5.
But 5% of your total salary. Let's think about a teacher's salary real quick, because they don't get reimbursed for the tools and supplies that they provide for their students. They have their annual budget is horrible. Oklahoma is the worst school district in the whole entire country, and that's right above us. Their teachers flock here for basic incentives such as getting markers for your dry book. Like, that is something that teachers will move for.
And the average teacher here last time, this was 2010, back when I was in the school system, it was about $48,000 to $50,000.
It's still about that,
but it's significantly better.
Well, I'll say 2 years ago it was still about that.
But the catch-22 is that they're getting more benefits now. Your job becomes better with more benefits. If you make only $50,000 a year, but you don't have to spend $10,000,
but is it the benefits that they really want, or is it just benefits to say like we're giving benefits?
And
I'm saying in general like that just because like to have family members that are in the education system, like public education system, and like my mom, like she switched over from, I guess it would be like continuing education, so like secondary to public and primary, and she lost a lot of benefits, like as far as like savings and
once again, I'm not a teacher. A lot of me says that once upon a time I wanted to be a teacher, but this just the lack of freedom you have to be a teacher now. You're not a teacher anymore. You're an instructor. And instructors that doesn't do much for me. There's so many teachers that I came across in high school who changed me.
Yeah,
it didn't come because they taught me 2 + 2 was 4. It came because they said, "Hey man, life is tough. This is what really works. This is what doesn't work." Shout out to TF North, because they set me up for the win. And I'm consciously always thinking about that. But then when I go to schools, I used to go to schools as an athlete to speak on the grind and the success, and to hear people's aspiration is just to be as good as me. It sort of set me back a few, because I was like, you could be so much better. I would hope you would want to be better. Yeah. And I don't feel like our generation are getting those options. And as I get closer to the age where I think a little Heero could be running around here sooner or later, it makes me a little nervous to think that they're not going to be set up nowhere near as good as I was. And it's not even of my own volition.
Well, it's because the school system has become a bit of an indoctrination station. So they have all these agendas. And when the last time, it was 2010 when I was in the school district, and I was a permanent sub, and then I worked in the office. And I literally saw everybody's test scores. Like, I was the person who received the test. We had the tax test here in Texas, and I was putting everybody's scores away. And I'm talking about seniors in high school reading at or below 5th grade level, doing at or below 5th grade math. I was like, how the heck are you graduating high school and you can't do long division?
Right.
You can barely write your name legibly, and you're getting pushed out of here. And so when I started asking questions, it became a problem. They didn't ask me to come back the next year, because I'm like, these kids are illiterate, but they're graduating. Why? And the answers I was getting were, Eric, we don't really have time to teach the kids. We just have to teach this test. So the kids aren't really getting educated there. They're just really getting babysat. And if they're on a free lunch, they're getting a free lunch. And then they're just kind of getting taught enough to take a test and hopefully get out of here.
I definitely think it's like, goes back to politics. Like,
it always does. No child left behind.
Like when I look at people that I went to college with versus people that I went to high school with, when I look at the things that they were provided versus the things that people really lacked and just weren't exposed to. boy.
You got a good point there. It's
so
crazy.
my thing is that, I thank God for the opportunities that I've been afforded, and not to say that I've just experienced everything that I was supposed to at my in growing and maturing to this point. But at the same time, it's just like, it goes back to politics, and if you're not in that district, you're not in that zoning, and you don't have those people pouring into you the way that you need them to. But also, like on the other end of that is that don't neglect to know that the same way that people were influential, because the same way that the system is right now, it was that there was still a certain level of it. Maybe it wasn't to this high of degree when we were in school, right? So don't neglect to know that there are people, that are just as passionate about kids and really intentional in a positive way, and like really trying to impact them, to help them know that like they can aspire to be more than just their teacher or just what you feel like is average in being you, which sure people don't feel that way, but we're harder on ourselves than anyone else. So
I'm so tough on myself. I eat nails and shit out bricks.
Okay, relax. But
bro.
But yeah, so don't like get down in that aspect, but it just definitely goes back to politics. Like,
everything's about politics, and one of the great things about politics and this beautiful podcast is we invite you guys to look into it, and we challenge you. We'll come back and prove us wrong, or tell us something you learned so we can invent and redefine ourselves in the situation where we're actually more knowledgeable about the situation, because communication is key. Rundown. Eric, where can they find us?
At The Identity Booth on Instagram, The Identity Booth on Facebook. Please go in there. Like, hey, listen, you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that like button.
Yeah.
Then tap the bell.
Yeah.
Then leave a comment.
Yeah. I'm looking for a 101. I'm at 100 followers. I need one more. Can y'all break 100? They give you a nice email on YouTube. I want that.
I'll subscribe. I'll do it. I'm on here now.
Ayla's now on podcast. So thank you so much, Ayla, for joining us on our podcast.
Wonderful. We always
hey,
enjoy
buddy.
the
Welcome.
feminine insights.
Do you guys see how he hit me?
Hey, that was an unwarranted sexual advance, Heero. I'm going to need you to move that way.
Send it to
HR. He made me feel...
Send it to HR.
Like, I'm not even
HR.
about to like downplay anyone.
Hey, I want y'all to know that we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for giving us your insight, your political expertise.
For sure.
It's really nice having you. Where can they find you? Because you're going to be talking about some stuff. What you talking about?
Yes, for sure. On Instagram at Proud Ayla B. YouTube, Proud Ayla. WordPress, Proud Ayla, Proud Ayla, Proud Ayla. Twitter, Facebook, Proud Ayla.
All right, and if y'all really enjoyed her expertise in the political world and political reference, stick around, tune out, because we're going to have her back, and she's going to be talking about what she's savvy so much with. What you like doing? What's your thing? You wrote me, text me about where I didn't tell you, somewhere I live near next to a store. So what do you like to do?
I like to do a plethora of things, Heero. But since you brought up the store, I love thrifting. I do. And I was mad because he was pressing me to get here. How am I control traffic? But nonetheless, in traffic, I had the opportunity to see that he lives right by a thrift store, and I could have been there.
Yeah, and we're not going to give that to you guys because I know I have followers. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys for joining us. I greatly appreciate it.
Redo this. Take me out.
Why?
You're not going to do me like that.
I was talking about stalkers, not you. What was that? What, you know where I live. You know every aspect of my life.
There's thrift stores everywhere. You feel like they're going to know exactly what thrift store is?
I don't know how.
You know how thrift stores work?
I don't.
But he's my best friend. Okay.
Now, we're gonna get into that on the Ayla podcast. And you can break it down, because we all can use some extra education. I don't even know where to play up. I'm trying to pop some tags, but I only got $20 in my pocket.
Let's do it like a baller. Hey, thank you guys so much. As always, it's Heero Eric, Ayla, our guest. We really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us in the booth. Hope you guys enjoy. Take care. I'm doing the way that Ayla did. Do that, please.
That is the way.
It's the way. Wave with me.
You got it.
Drop a podcast.